Second race weekend for the BMW IBSF Bobsleigh and Skeleton World Cup. We're in Winterberg in Germany, and after double two-man weekend in Sigulda, Latvia last week, it is double four-man weekend. The beasts are on ice Saturday and Sunday here in Winterberg. It's cold, it's damp, it's crisp, but it is not snowing a blizzard like last year. I'm Martin Haven. Alongside me is US bobsled pilot Brittany Reinbold. Brittany, you were on the track just a little over an hour ago. How is Winterberg this season?
Winterberg is good. The track is in great condition. Here you can see we're at the start, and it is a short track. There's only 14 curves, which means a start time is incredibly important. And it's the first four-man race, so we might see some action up there at the start as athletes try to load in the sled. Then we come down here through the kink in corner one. Now we're in corner two, the Omega curve. These corners up at top, there's not a lot of speed, but it's incredibly important to keep the sled off the walls, keep it straight, pointing where you want to go. It's not hard to get down, but it's hard to find that speed and keep that acceleration going. Coming in here, corner five is where it starts to pick up a little more, corner six, and now we're coming into the Kreisel, a 360-degree circle, and right when we get out of here is where the track changes. Corner eight, you're starting to drive a lot more now. 10, 11, I'm lost already, but you're going, the track's changing, now we're in 11, it's going faster, your hands are doing a lot more work. If you hit walls down here, it's not as crucial to that speed because you already picked it up, but it's important to still maintain that speed. And here, corner 14, we might see some victory rolls down there today. I'm not sure. It's one of the places where the sleds can go over. It's
pretty steep uphill there. You can win or lose a race in the final corner, never mind the previous 13. And you're right, rolling off the final corner with maximum speed is a guaranteed way to get the headlines, but also a pretty good way of getting some speed. Here's Nico Walther of Germany, one of three German four-man sleds in the field. And after Sigulda last weekend, he's back with his favoured discipline. He does like the big coach that is the four-man sled ahead of the little sports coupe that's the two-man. Air temperature hovering around -3, feels about -8 because it's so damp. Ice just above -4. It's got a little faster than it was in training as well. This is right outside the start area, so the fans can hang out there, watch the athletes limbering up. If you like watching men jogging around in tracksuits, that's the place for you. Over the other side is where the action is with the Glühwein and the Waffle stands, though, so in the Bratwurst, which is also much of a part of a European bobsleigh track. Well, now, all of our three German sleds were on the podium last year. Let's see how they fare this season. Rudy Rinaldi of Monaco leads our start order, and the first few sleds are relative newcomers to four-man sliding in the World Cup. After the Olympic Games, you tend to get a little bit of a changeover, and some of the young new breed are racing here where their forebears have retired. We've got a couple of rookies in the World Cup as well, making their first ever World Cup starts, so there'll be plenty to see. And down at the bottom, that was not a typo, Alana Myers-Taylor with a sled full of American women will also compete in this four-man race. First four-man races of the season here in Winterberg in Germany. We're on one of the premier drivers' tracks for learning your skills. So the pilots here know the track well, but the devil here is in the detail. One error you might get away with, more than one, you're going down. This is Rudy Rinaldi of Monaco, the first man to get us underway for this four-man season. I'm Martin Haven, alongside me, Brittany Reinbold to the USA. 25-year-old Rudy, his fifth World Cup start ever in a four-man sled. Let's see how they load.
And they're in, going through corner 0, 5:15 start. That'll be the time to match going on through the race. And it's looking pretty good so far. See if you could keep this velocity going.
Well, a little bit of bated breath there, because in training we did have starts where not everybody got into the sled. It's not the easiest thing to do, particularly first time out.
A little skid there, that is definitely going to cost him at the top of the track. And another little tap there going into the Kreisel. That's pretty typical, but it will cost you.
Yeah, sometimes the big four-man sleds have to take a tap. You just can't stay off the walls.
Yeah, but it's looking pretty clean. But sometimes a run could look clean here and still not have that speed. We'll see what happens.
So Rinaldi is our rabbit. He's the man that they're all going to have to match themselves against. He gets the first of the fresh ice, 54.57. Track record is a 53.48, so he's a full second away from that. In the women's race, we were a good second away from the track record. Those date back to the World Championships here in 2015. So Nico Walther, the track record holder, don't think we're going to get that kind of pace today. It's really not as cold as it was in February 2015.
But we do have Walther in the race, so we'll see what he can do.
Yeah. So 4 big men running over speed downhill on ice, loading into an upturned bathtub. Mind you, if your bathtub was that narrow at home, you'd never use it.
Yeah, a little skid out of there, that is costly. I bet we will see more of those today, as well as hits out of that wall as well.
Trying to carry the height through corner 11, avoid doing too much steering. Let the sled do all the work, that's the idea. Says Rudy Rinaldi of Monaco, first down, he leads. Next up is Roman Heinrich, 28-year-old Frenchman from Grenoble. This is his first ever World Cup as a 4-man driver. His first 4-man race was in Altenburg 2 years ago, and he's got a rookie on the back. The brakeman is a World Cup first-timer, Alain Lācis from French Guiana. Big sprinter on the back handles. So what about this start area? Is it long or short? You get to run a long way. Oh, they didn't get in.
It's pretty short. As you can see, the crew is having a hard time getting in the sled before that corner 0, or kink, as bobsledders like to call it. So I think we're going to see today a lot of crews struggling to get in on time with that short start ramp.
Well, they'll only have had 6 starts in practice to really rehearse themselves.
Yeah, but they had a 5:18, so only 300ths off of the Monaco. But already now you can see they're 2 tenths back going into the Kreisel, and we'll see if they could pick up any time here.
With all those bodies up in the airstream at the start when you're going slowly, slow you down and rocking and rolling a little bit down the track. But Heinrich, very new to 4-man, he's been racing 2-man for a couple of seasons. Speed at the bottom.
A little flop off of there, but down here in the lower portion of the track, if you flop off the curves, it's not too deadly.
Good speed, 134.2. That's as quick as we saw from Rudy Rinaldi of Monaco. The sleds are very similar. And 3,700's back. That's not a disaster. And a first World Cup start together for these guys in 4-man, and the first World Cup start for them together this season. So it's blowing off those cobwebs and getting into the routine.
For sure, and there's going to be a lot of new crews on the ice with the first year of the quad. A lot of athletes retired, and we're just kind of reorganizing in the sport. Here they are. Ooh, a really big skid out of the groove, smashing that wall.
Yeah.
That's definitely what hurt him right there.
Well, you could have run 5 steps shorter and loaded early and had more speed than after that hit. So,
yes, yes.
Yeah. And you've got to try and hang on there.
Yeah, and down there, the coaches are telling us just ride it long, flop off the corners if you have to. It's up at the top where you really got to be particular.
Keep the speed. So Rudy Rinaldi of Monaco leads Roman Heinrich of France. Next up is World Cup 4-man rookie Ralf Berschins. He made his World Cup debut in the double 2-man race at home in Sigulda. And behind him, the man at 2, Maris Pikolis, making his first World Cup start in a 4-man as well.
The Latvians are known for their starts, so let's see if this rookie crew could 5:17 in the mix.
Well, this is the classic example. If you've got to get in, get down, there's not much time before the track narrows.
Exactly. And you can see that the first 3 sleds have kind of had some trouble up there, but they're getting it together down here. Only 700ths off, so he should maybe he'll pull ahead of France here.
Yeah. So the Latvian newcomer, has been their 3rd driver for the last few seasons, not made it into the World Cup until now.
Yeah, and here's where the track starts to change. Little brush, but that's not too costly. And looking smoother through down here.
Yeah, 1/10 of a second behind Rudy Rinaldi of Monaco. Rinaldi with 4 more races in a 4-man than Ralf Berschins at this moment. Speed at the bottom, 134s we're seeing, and 133.9, close enough.
Yeah, a little bit of a wave down there in corner 14. I think he grabbed it a little soon and kind of, you can see that sled want to rise at the end, and that's where he'll get those rolls if people grab it too soon.
So his World Cup debut last week in 2-man, his World Cup debut this weekend in 4-man, and double race duty, so this load will get even smoother. Watch the way they have to sit down. The guy at the back, then 3, then 2 sits down last. So it's all about the brakeman getting in first.
For sure. And brakeman has a lot of work to do. They have to get in, they have to get the push bars in, and then pull the brakes.
And fit
you can see the push bars are just going in still through that 0 corner.
Got to fit those big shoulders in the cowl as well. That's not easy either, right?
Yeah.
You know, these guys, when you see them all together, you go, yeah, you know, they're all the same size. When you see them on their own, they're massive.
They are, they are.
Now, this is a crew that everybody will be watching. Dominik Dvorak and his guys had a bad load in training, so bad, in fact, that they crashed in turn 1, and Dvorak was the only man who arrived at the bottom in the sled. So let's hope they've got that out of their system.
Yeah, and this crew had in the 2-man races last week, had a really good performance. So we'll see if they can match that here. The good start time, 5:09.
Driver now has to try and get his push bar in, 5:09 getaway, but very wavy off corner 0.
Yeah, good push, but may have lost it there.
Raced in Salt Lake City last month in 4-man, was 1st and 3rd in the 2 North America's Cup races.
Yeah, and you can see they had a great push, but a little squirrely at the top. They're already dropping into the red.
Well, one of his best 4-man races here was back in 2016. He was in the Junior Worlds. He finished in the bronze medal position between Johannes Lochner and Benny Meyer behind them. So pretty decent driver. And last year, real standout season for Dominik Dvorak. 600ths off the lead. This could go either way. Final corner will tell.
Oh, here we go.
Speed is everything in the last turn. 134s he needs. He gets, but he's just 1200ths behind. 54.69. Well, again, you know, a tiny margin, 1200ths of a second, and one mistake tidied up can easily gain you that on the second run.
For sure. I think if they clean up that load a little bit, they were probably a little nervous going to that corner 0.
No kidding.
After training, but they got that out of their system, and they'll clean it up on this next one, and I bet they jump up in their order a bit in time. Yeah, that's... The driver doesn't even have the push bar down.
Yeah. All very busy, wasn't it?
For sure, for sure.
It's not a steering wheel, so you can't steer with one hand. You've got to have both hands on the 2 D-rings, and if you take one off, the sled starts steering itself.
Absolutely, and in that corner 0, there's actually a lot of driving that needs to be done. So sometimes maybe he thought, I'm going to drive to the corner and then get the push bar down.
Dominik Dvorak shakes his head, but they got down with all 4 men and not using their heads, so that's a result.
Yeah.
Well, next up is Benny Meyer, silver medalist in the Junior Worlds here back in 2016, ahead of Dvorak. 5th equal in last year's snow race here. The 24-year-old has had a best ever 4-man result of silver in Königssee in Bavaria last February, the last race before the Winter Games. The Austrian crew, pretty experienced now. They took the bronze medal here in 2016-17.
5:11, a competitive start. They're in. They're in the green. Benny's doing a really good job this season. He had a good result last week. I think he's really enjoying the sport, getting his crew together, and we might see some good stuff here. Yep,
happily married to Elizabeth Vache over the summer, so she's now Elizabeth Meyer, competing still for Canada, and they're about to move to Calgary during the winter.
This is looking pretty good. A small tap there going into Kreisel, but we said that's pretty typical. And we'll see if he can hold on to this.
Well, now, if he's in a top half-dozen looking run, a 10th ahead of Rudy Rinaldi, that speaks very highly of Rinaldi of Monaco's first run. He is still the leader, the first man on the ice.
Yeah, I think Benny's going to put a mark down here for people to beat.
Yes, he is, and across the line he comes, 500 up, 54.52. This is very tight. Franz Josef Hoffmann there on the left, the new head coach of Austria, because Benny's dad, Manfred Meyer, has now been hired by the IBSF to help guide bobsled sport. So 54.52, 500s first to second.
Nice looking load, cruise in. They're getting the push bars in right when they get out of the grooves. Gives the driver time to get down, get set, grab the D-rings.
There you go, brakeman in, and the rest drop in.
Yeah, and there's a little flop there, but not too bad. Especially down there. I think we're going to see that all day. We want to ride that corner long.
Yeah. Less you steer, the less friction there is, and friction is not your friend. So Benny Meyer has the lead. Next up is Brad Hall of Great Britain. He was 13th in the snow here last year. And at 3, Alan Toward makes his World Cup debut, the 26-year-old former Great Britain discus thrower, now heading into another different Olympic sport. First 4-man race for Brad Hall, February 2015. He was a brakeman then for Lamin Dean and John Jackson. Started driving in January 2017, not so long ago. Raced in Salt Lake City and Lake Placid last month. 3 podium finishes in the 4-man alone. Misha McNeil won all 4 races, so Coach Lee Johnson very keen to get the Brits with some confidence behind them rather than sending them to tracks they've got no hope of being competitive on.
Totally. They've been over in North America getting ready for World Championships, and they're really doing some good stuff with their program. And they are in.
In and down, and a decent start, 5:15, nice and clean, no errors here. Everybody's going to be a little nervy. First World Cup race of the season is different meat to anything else.
For sure. And he's in the red right now, but his lines look pretty good. That's the tricky thing about this track. You can look like you're having a nice, smooth run, but it doesn't necessarily mean the speed's there.
Well, Benny was telling me that this sled is a real old warhorse. It's a Singer sled that Lee Johnson drove in the games in Salt Lake City in 2002, so it's done some yards.
Yeah. He had a little hit out, and another little hit there. That's going to start to drop him back even further.
I saw this in training. The back of the British sled kind of skiddy. Now, whether that's they've gone for a fast runner setup or whether Brad is hauling it off the corners, I'm not sure which of the two it is. Across the line, wavy in the final corner, 5th place, 54.93. That might be good enough for a top 10 at the end of the first heat. And that will definitely be the target, 13th last year. And this sled, in fact, set an all-time speed record here last time down. So the boys, Brad Hall, Nick Gleeson, Alan Toward, the rookie, has now made his first World Cup start, and Ben Simons on the back of the sled.
Yeah, you can see here it really starts to get away from him. Missed the steer on that, drove into the wall, and then coming in here through the Kreisel, has another little tap out of here, skid. All that costs, up here if you hit, it could cost you a 10th, and it just maximizes going down the track.
So there's Brad, former brakeman turned driver. Still learning the sport. So too is Justin Olson, Olympic Championship and World Championship brakeman. He's been driving for a few years longer. The 31-year-old also has a World Cup debutant at 2. Blaine McConnell, 32-year-old from Tacoma, Wisconsin. Tacoma, Washington. Actually, yeah.
Yeah, Olson's doing a good job this year. We're doing new stuff with our program. A rebuilding year. He's got a new crew with him. He's got Hakeem, who's been in the Olympics. Adrian, who's a veteran in our program, and then Blaine, brand new, great guy, brings a lot to our team.
Yeah, comes from Washington State, lives in Iceland.
Yeah.
Say what?
Yeah, his wife is a CrossFitter, so they're living up there.
Well, welcome to the World Cup to them.
At 5:13, they're in the mix, 3rd fastest start so far.
Yeah, 3rd fastest run so far as well. Was only 900s behind the last split, but drifting away a little, 1800s back.
Yeah, and Justin, he hasn't had many runs on this track. I've actually had the same amount of runs as him. We came here a couple years ago. This is only his 3rd race on this track. All
right, gets it across the line. 5th fastest, 54.83, a 10th of a second quicker than the last. Led down Brad Hall of Great Britain. So Benny Meyer still leads. Justin Olson slots into 5th. He's 300ths off 4th, 1/10 away from 6th.
Yeah.
Now, 300ths of a second, you know, I don't know what tiny error can create a 300ths gap, but there's something somewhere.
For sure. Yeah, you can see just little brushes along the wall here, but it's a competitive race. We'll see what happens.
Keeping it neat and tidy.
Yeah.
Like most drivers, started his career in driving 2-man only and then graduated to all the weight and the mass of a 4-man sled. It's a very different beast. I'm sure Alana can give chapter and verse on that as well.
For sure.
Well, next up is our Olympic champion in 4-man, and 2-man. Here's our world champion in 4-man, and 2-man as well. Francesco Friedrich of Germany only finished in the bronze medal position in the race here last year. Another World Cup rookie on the back. Alexander Schuller, the man on the brakes at the back, made his 2-man debut in race 1 in Sigulda, won it. This is his 4-man debut. Is that an omen?
I don't know, but it is tied the fastest start of the day so far. And one thing's for sure, the Germans know how to drive this track. And I'm expecting this to stay in the green the entire time down. It's looking really solid. Right down the middle, keeping it parallel, keeping it off the walls.
Well, the other two guys, Janis Becker and Martin Grotkopp, very experienced at riding a sled. Now, you think the brakeman just sits there and does nothing. It's like being on the back of a motorcycle. You've got to actually help the physics of the sled.
Exactly. Riding position is everything. If one brakeman is out of line, it could ruin the entire aerodynamics of the sled.
The aerodynamics and the feel of it. If you're fighting the action of the sled, then it moves the sled on the ice.
Yeah. Over 2/10 of a lead.
Wow, big run from Francesco Friedrich, 54.26. That is a good run. That's now the marker. He takes the lead by 2600 from Benny Meyer. And suddenly everybody else is wondering whether they're going to get on the podium.
Exactly. The Germans have potential to sweep this race, and that's for sure.
I mean, Friedrich has the potential. What is he now? He's 24 years old. He's got the potential to be perhaps the greatest bobsledder ever in terms of results. The Michael Schumacher of German bobsledding.
Yeah, and that load was textbook.
There's a well-oiled machine.
Yeah, and the whole line's all the way down the track. That's what you want to do. Put it on a clinic, showing everyone how to drive.
Yeah, it's not even his home track. So Francesco Friedrich leads. It's not the home track for Nico Walther either. Our Olympic silver medalist in four-man and third in the World Championships in four-manning 2017, our last Worlds. The 28-year-old from Freital outside of Altenburg. Paul Krentz at 2, Alex Rodinger at 3, Eric Franke at 4, or as he was in Sigulda last week, for some reason, Pavel Kaminski. Paul Krentz at 2. So that's now his official German sliding name.
The 5:09 is the time to beat. 5:11, only 200s back in the mix. Well, you can see his runners moving there. He really had to control it out of corner 0, but he did it.
All right, now let's see how close he can get to Francesco Friedrich. This is what he likes. Last weekend he was telling me, I can't wait for four-man to start, so 300's back.
Yeah, he's in the mix. It's looking clean. Oh, I thought he was going to avoid the hit out of Kreisel, but...
Ice flies.
Yeah. All right, here we go. Now the track's really going to start to pick up speed.
Same speed as Friedrich, so this is still very close indeed. Benny Meyer down the bottom, 134.4. His sled quicker than the FES sled and quicker than the Valner sled of Friedrich. Down to 200, 135, 135.3. That's the speed. That is the speed. Now, he was running a new sled built by FES in training that had a yellow cowl up to split and was matte black behind. I said, you're going to run it like that in the race? He said, no, they want to wrap it. So I don't know, is that the new FES or last year's FES? Either way, that's the fastest trip down. Nico is back where he likes to be.
Exactly. Whatever sled it is, that's the one they're probably going to want to keep.
Yeah.
You can see the runners moving there. He really had to control it.
Yep. A little twitch with the runners just to straighten it up.
Even with that smash there, fastest times of the day, speeds of the day.
Yeah, but by only 200, so maybe there's more to come still. You know, if you lead with a couple of mistakes, you know there's money in the bank.
Definitely.
10th of our sleds in the first of 2 heats, in the first of 2 races in the four-man here in Winterberg, Germany. Oskars Kiebermanis of Latvia tied for 5th in last year's snow race with Benny Meyer. 25-year-old fireman from the capital Riga, and we were racing on his home track just 1 week ago in two-man. Really experienced crew. Martin Smiknis, Arvis Vilkaster, and Janis Stranger.
5:07. I was expecting a big start, and they gave it to us.
So fastest of the competition so far from the Latvians. Oskars Melbardis, by the way, not retired. He is recovering from more surgery over the summer. And so we will hopefully see him back in harness. Maybe next year, maybe for the Worlds, not quite sure yet. 300's behind. Now then, this is where Friedrich picked up the speed, and right at the bottom is where Walther motored ahead of him.
Yeah, those Germans just know the little intricate details on this track to pull ahead, because this is a good run. But
yeah. 700's back. Again, that's how far Nico Walther was behind. Good speed down at the bottom will really help Kiebermanis, but the gap's growing. This is for 3rd place at the line, ahead of Benny Meyer, and it is. Yeah. So 1400's behind Francesco Friedrich, and 1200's ahead of Benny Meyer, so almost exactly in the middle of the two of them in 3rd place.
Looks like we've got a race on our hands.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's very much Winterberg, isn't it? A few hundreds here and a few hundreds there makes a huge difference.
Definitely, and it could all change in the second heat, too, which is crazy.
Yeah.
Into the Kreisel, he really let it fly high. Catches it, gets it under control here. And then coming through 11, I believe this is 11.
Yeah.
And yeah, really nice line. You really need to be patient here out of the exit. So that's why we're seeing the sleds flop off. Patience is key.
So it is Germany, Latvia, Austria, Monaco and the Czech Republic, the top half dozen. 10 sleds down in the first heat of 4-man of the brand new season. 10 down in our first 4-man race. It's a German 1-2. Can Maxim Andrianov, the 30-year-old former luge slider from Russia, make a difference? He's got Alexei Zaitsev, Vasily Kondratenko and Ruslan Samitov behind him. Again, a very experienced crew behind a 30-year-old. 5th in both 2-man races in Sigulda. His best ever 4-man races. 8th places here in Altenburg. So 2 top 8 finishes. If he can do that again, he'll be doing really well.
Yeah, 5-12 start, it's in the mix, but you can see he had a lot of trouble in that kink, which is gonna cost him. He's probably gonna, we'll see if he can stop the bleeding of time as it goes down the track. Already a 10th back.
And that will probably be doubled by the Kreisel. That loss of speed is gonna haunt him all the way through this flat section.
Yeah, you can see even in the straightaways, that sled's kind of wanting to skid. Little tap there. High line through Kreisel.
Speed is good, only a couple of tenths of a kilometre an hour off the very fastest, so he could come back into this.
Definitely, it's anyone's game.
Well, Splits is showing him in 5th place at the moment, but the final corner is so critical. It goes uphill all the way here to the finish line. Then you crest the rise, 2800's back in 4th. That's not bad. 54, 52, tied with Benny Meyer and within sight of the medals.
All right.
Well, top 8s are his best results ever in World Cup racing in 4-man. He's already halfway closer to the top than that.
Hey.
There's a couple of good sleds still to come, but this is looking like it could be a great start to the season for Maxim Andrianov.
It's a really good shot of this load. 2 guy comes in, hits his visor down. 4 guys coming in, grabbing the push bars. It's just a work of art.
It's getting the shoulders in. The guy drops down and then his armpits hold on a count. Then he has to get his arms in.
Yeah.
You watch the Latvians, they already have their arms crossed as they're dropping in.
Totally.
Well, lots of support for Bavaria's Hansi Lochner, last year's race winner, 4-man joint world champion in 2017 with Francesco Friedrich. And he was the 4-man European champion here as well in 2016. Debutant Florian Bauer at 2. And Christopher Weber and Christian Rast, both well-known occupants at 3 and 4. Hansi Lochner has only failed to win here in 4-man once in his career at any level, and that was on his debut in Europa Cup.
And they're already on their way to another great run. 5:03 start, fastest of the day. And the run is looking solid. Little skid there, but he got it under control.
His only non-podium finish here. Oh, huge skid going into the Kreisel. That is going to really hurt him.
Yeah, great velocity at the start. Oh, there we go. There's the red.
Yeah.
That cost him that 1200s right there.
Well, his only non-win was 2nd in the Junior World Championship, the first race he ever had here. His record here is better than his record in Koenigsegg, his own track.
Wow, wow.
And at the line, 4th, yes, 54.48, so 400s ahead of the tie between Meyer and Andrianov. Now, he can eradicate that mistake in the second heat, but he's committed it now, and that's cost him a 1/4 of a second. He now has to rely on the others making a worse mistake.
Exactly, he's still in the mix, but it's definitely gonna take some work to climb up.
Yeah.
Ooh. I think he probably didn't grab the D-rings on time for that.
Yeah.
We like to pre-steer away from that, and he just flew right into the curve. Here, missed that steer as well, right into the wall, major skid out. Gets it back under control in Kreisel here, but by that time it's too late.
Well, last year's winner lies in 4th place behind teammates Nico Walther and Francesco Friedrich, with Oskars Kiebermanis in 3rd. Austria's Markus Treichel, 25-year-old from Sistrans outside of Innsbruck. He's had Europa Cup medals here. Best World Cup result in four-man is 11th in Koenigsee last January, just before the games. And a debutant at 3, Sebastian Mitterer, 25-year-old tennis player from Innsbruck. Who knew?
I have not heard of a tennis player who can bring into bobsled yet.
First ever, as far as I'm aware.
Wow.
Unless Roger Federer knows different. 5.16.
Got the kink under control. Corner 1 is looking good. Omega.
Great to hear the rumble of the four-man sleds
awesome.
again, isn't it? They really send the shivers up your spine.
Yeah.
Treichel 3/10 back. Top 10 run for the Austrian. World Cup best, 11th. Last four-man race, which was in January 18. This is still a solid top 10 run.
Yeah, it's looking pretty solid.
Right, so this to go ahead of the USA's Justin Olson and Ralf Spertjens of Latvia for 9th at the line. 9th it is.
Yeah, what was impressive about that is they had the 11th fastest start, but 9th fastest downtime. So they were gaining speed as they were going down the track.
Yep.
If they could clean up that start a bit, maybe they could move up even more.
Well, if you outdrive your start time, you know you're doing well, don't you?
Exactly.
So Markus Treichel in 9th position. That's a good first heat. Last year in the snow, 24th. That's positive progress.
Yeah, it is. And the good thing about today is there is no snow so far. I don't want to jinx it, but a clean, fair race is always awesome here.
If you haven't jinxed somebody, are you even a commentator? Yeah, no, I'm just saying. Yeah. It's out there.
Totally. That was probably the worst part of his run, so I was pretty impressed with that.
So Markus Treichel of Austria, keeping it neat at the fast part of the track, carries speed through the final corners, and firmly in the top 10. Now he's just got to do that one more time. For the Netherlands, lots of orange, lots of fans here from the Low Countries for Ivo de Bruin. He's got a rookie as well. It's Joost Duckface Duma at 2 from Eindhoven, a former hammer thrower, with Dennis Venke and Janko Francic, who was on the two-man sled last weekend. World Cup best in four-man, 15th place in Lake Placid back in 2015. But he's failed to make the cut the last 2 races here in Winterberg.
5:23 start, that's going to start him out in the red. But Ivo is probably one of the friendliest guys on the World Cup Tour. He's a friend to every single nation. Everyone knows who he is. I think everyone wants to see him do well here.
Yeah. Originally from the Netherlands and still slides for Netherlands, married to Christine de Bruin, and they live in Calgary in Canada.
Drive lines are looking good.
Yep, out driving his start at the moment. Little ice flying as he goes into the Kreisel. Heading towards top 12 at the moment, 13th on the split times.
I think if he could keep this bottom portion of the track clean, he might be able to improve on that world best finish, or his personal best finish.
Absolutely. 6400s back. Is he going to be in the top 12 at the line? 14th place, a little bit went away in the final corner. So 54.97. Well, at the moment, that's a personal best. Depends if anybody gets past him.
We will see.
Yeah.
We're getting towards the end of the order, so you never know.
Yeah, we got one rookie and perhaps one team who might go quicker than him. Not a bad load from the boys. Rookie at 2 there is Joost Duma, the 23-year-old hammer thrower from Eindhoven. Not sure where Duckface comes from. I'm sure I'll find out at some stage.
I'll have to ask about that next time I see them.
Well, next up is Billy Meyerhans and the A-team, and another rookie here. Cyril Bieri makes his World Cup four-man debut at 2. And Jean-Jacques Keller has never raced in a World Cup, the 31-year-old. His first ever bobsled race was 363 days ago. He's done 2 Europa Cup races, that's it. So 5:26, they all get in, they all get down neat and tidily. Well, Billy Meyerhans, relatively inexperienced at World Cup level. He's raced here a few times. He's had top 5s in four-man in Europa Cup, but this is only his 6th ever World Cup start in four-man.
Interesting.
He's got a start track on his farm. He's a businessman, runs a construction equipment hire company and a dozen other different irons in his fire. Little skid. 15th place for Billy Marhans of Switzerland. Rico Peter retired and now coaching for Korea. Oh!
It got out of control out of 11, and then he tried to hang on for 12 and 13, but just lost it.
Yeah, the crash in 13 is the crash. The mistake always comes before, doesn't it?
Exactly, and the run was looking good.
Yeah.
And then out of 11, just started to lose control.
Yeah, hanging it out there for the speed. And again, you know, the rule here is steer as little as you can.
Exactly.
As long as you do it in the key places.
Exactly, but the good news is they crossed the finish line.
Yep.
The crew's inside. So if the sled's okay, they could take another run, and there's only 19 sleds, so they can get some World Cup points here.
Yes, they will make the second heat. So if they're all good to go, and I'm sure they will be, certainly I think take more than that to put Billy Marhans off. Crew are all out. All right, cold and a little bit banged up, but if you haven't crashed, you're not a bobsledder, right?
It's true. That's what we say. You're not a real bobsledder until you take a crash.
Well, the A-team, despite 2 rookies, are now a real bobsled team.
Yeah, you can see right there, he's super high on the exit, or maybe even, yeah, right there. And that's exit 13. Yep.
And in fact, the sled wants to follow the track back down, but all the mass, that you know, 400 kilos of meat is pulling it over.
Exactly.
Because the centrifugal force is trying to push the bodies out of the sled, and all that weight is going way out there, and it's actually the mass of meat inside that tips the sled over.
Exactly, especially if you have rookies back there, and they don't really understand how to quite sit inside a sled if they're sitting too high.
Well, even so, you know, shifting a 400 kilo load on any flat truck, you know, the driver will tell you that's not good.
Exactly.
And these sleds, you know, when the 4-man sled's going, the human bodies are 2/3 of its all that weight. So when they move, it moves.
Exactly.
Well, there's Billy, and the boys are okay.
Yeah, looks like they're okay. That's good news.
Yeah. So the doctors will give them a check over, and as long as they're good to go, they're good to go. Now, Jezda Sergeyeva there was racing in a women's race, had her best race here this morning. So one of your fellow competitors. There's a few watching the action as well. Not much point going home to the hotel.
Yeah, exactly.
You can eat great bobsled food here anyway.
Totally, and a lot of times the women's teams and the men's team, we're all one big happy family, so we'll stick around, move the men's sleds to the line, cheer them on.
Hey, listen, you know, you're a tiny unit away from home. Even if you're a big nation like Russia or the US, there's like, what, 25 people? You know, that mutual support association is, you know, that's your home from home. That's your family on the road.
Exactly. You're a team, a family within your team, but then the international community is also a family as well.
Absolutely. There you go. See, the crew even helping up one of the workers down there at the bottom as he trips over the scabbard. So those that you can see being pulled in the background, the runners of the sleds drop into those to stop the runners getting gouged up when they're being transported up and down on the trucks.
Exactly. We pay a lot of money for those runners. 2-man runners are about 6,000 euros a piece, or a set, so I don't even know what 4-men are, but we want to keep those in good condition.
Well, we're almost at the end of the run. They're not going to fill those grooves from the crash, but they're just, as you can see where the runner marks are, they're just below the normal line, so the sled shouldn't be steered along by it.
Exactly.
Lots of fans here for Francesco Friedrich. They'll get in with the bucket of slush and they'll fill any big chunks that have dropped out of the wall. Basically, that's a little bit, that's a kind of a McFlurry, but they'll trowel it on, it freezes on contact, and then between the two heats we'll get a spritz, which is where they spray a fine mist of water over it, and that'll help to fill the remaining grooves.
Exactly, and that spritz adds a little more speed to the track as well.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it takes the mat off it that you get and gives it a nice polished ice.
Yeah.
It's like sending down the Zamboni, but a little bit safer.
For sure.
So I want to see somebody try and drive one down from the top. I'm sure it must be possible, but, you know.
Yeah.
Maybe not today. Right, lots of bobsled fans in the audience are actually bobsledders, aren't they? Or bobsledderins, do we have here? Is that the German film? Go on, Reinbold, you must know.
I don't know.
If that's not a German name, I don't know what is.
Yeah. But the nice thing about Winterberg in general is there are a lot of fans that come out to the track here.
Yeah.
And although we athletes like to say we can perform with or without fans, the fans really do help bring up the atmosphere, kind of pump you up a little bit.
Exactly
it's really
right.
nice.
And actually, you know, everywhere we go pretty much, you know, we're a big sport in a little town. Not many towns have a bobsled track, and the ones that do know all about it. You know.
Exactly. What's the population of Winterberg, do you know?
Oh, I don't know, a few thousand.
Yeah, not very much, not very big.
Few thousand. Yeah, until the holiday season, the Dutch arrive, and then there's like 50,000 Dutch. There's Elizabeth Meyer in the Team Canada jacket. She was calling your race earlier on.
Yeah.
So lots of family and relatives here from the Netherlands. Of course, she's now got a whole new family in Austria as well, courtesy of her marriage to husband Benny Meyer, who lies equal fifth. So he's having a good day at the office. Nico Walther, Francesco, Friedrich, Oskars, Kibermanis are top three. We have 3 sleds left to go. In fact, in the women's race, Alana Myers-Taylor and her Bremen woman, Lega Kwasi, ran up to the top of the track so Alana could get ready for the 4-man race. Then had to come all the way back down again. You drove them down, didn't you? Because in fact, they had to go on the podium first. I thought, oh, that's such a shame for Lācis. She's going to miss her first ever World Cup race, first ever podium. But in fact, you got them down in time.
Yeah, it was crazy. We were at the top. We were going to get the sleds off the truck, help Alana and get ready for the 4-man race. And then all of a sudden we hear awards. I grabbed the coach's keys. We hopped in the car. Total road rage getting them down here. But you get fined if you miss the awards. So we did not want to get fined.
No.
Or miss it, because it's just a fun experience, especially for Lake, like
absolutely.
we said.
Now, there's a great shot of the runners. Look, they're not like a skate. They're not a flat bottom edge. They're kind of rounded, so the contact patch on the ice is much smaller than the actual length of the runner, and they've got that rounded profile. Everything here, unlike an ice skate, is to avoid cutting the ice, isn't it?
Exactly. A lot of people think that when they hear of steel runners that it would be like a hockey skate, but it's completely opposite.
Yeah.
The less you're cutting into the ice, the faster you go, exactly like you said. And we spend hours smoothing those runners out the night before races.
Yeah, that's the glamour they never tell track and field athletes. If track and field athletes or tennis players, who knows?
Yeah.
If anybody approaches and says, hey, would you like to do bobsled, Olympic Games? You know? Oh, you mean, would I like to polish and then maybe in 4 years? That's the way it works.
Yeah, we are like our own NASCAR pit crew. People do not realize that coming in.
Gym bunnies who spend the next amount of time that you spend not in the gym, apart from eating, is sanding runners and polishing runners. Right?
Exactly. When we're on tour, it is straight 24 hours a day bobsled. Yeah. Even in our dreams.
Absolutely. Well, there's a great view of the bobsled. It is bare bones inside. They have a metal frame, a separate composite cowl. Heating there is none. There are no cushions to sit on, no seats to hold on to, no safety belts. The only semblance of a seat is a little crescent shape behind the driver's back. The driver braces his feet against footrests or her feet, and then against that, so your hands are free to steer. You can't support yourself in the sled with your arms.
Exactly, exactly. You're really using your leg strength not only to push the sled, but to keep yourself inside of the sled.
Yeah, absolutely. So ready to go again with our final 3 sleds in this first heat, and another World Cup rookie. He made his 2-man debut a week ago in Latvia. He makes his 4-man debut here, 23-year-old Alexander Bredikin. So silver in the Junior Worlds here in 2017 in 4-man. His best ever 4-man results, silver medals in the Junior Worlds and in Europa Cup. Teammate Sergeyeva shouting them off at the top.
5:16 start. I wonder if that hold kind of hurt him a little bit. Every time you have to stand up there for 10 minutes before you go, your muscles get cold, you're standing around, that doesn't help the start at all.
Yeah, because they'll have been in the line, ready to go, 2 minutes to go, they're still lumbering up and down, and then it's an indeterminate wait.
Exactly. And you have to be ready to go because they'll only give you a 2-minute warning.
Of course, the driver's got to switch his brain right into gear immediately, having hyped up and back it away, and then come back up again, find that peak, because you can't be off your game here.
Exactly. So far, no major errors, just the same little typical errors that we've been seeing for most of the field. But with that start, he's already quite a ways back. Well,
started 11th, but he's up to 7th place on the split, so he is finding time. Still a big gap to the leader, but he's going to be aiming for top half dozen and almost rolls it off the final corner. That's what we're talking about, holding the steer, not pulling the sled down, because that slows it as you turn the runners.
Exactly, but 8th place, that was pretty good.
Yeah, not bad at all.
Yeah, starting with an 11th. Like we said before, anytime you're making up time with that start, you're doing your job as a driver.
So he's 100th ahead of Dvorak, who started 3rd fastest. Well, the driver drops in, gets his arms in, thumps the button for the push bar, grabs the D-rings before you run out of the grooves that keep the sled running straight at the start. And the crew load in behind.
He actually got onto that corner a little bit better. Looks like he had his hand on the D-rings, didn't miss it like some of the drivers had. He just didn't steer hard enough.
So there's Friedrich, our World Cup rookie this season for Russia. 17th of our sled is far from a rookie. This is the 33-year-old Korean driver, Yoon Jong-won. Best four-man result for him, Lake Placid 2016. He finished in 5th place in the World Cup. And in the last couple of seasons, didn't race here last year. By this race last year, they're already back home in Korea practicing for, I don't know, something that happened in February in Pyeongchang.
Maybe the Olympics.
And last 2 races here, though, 15 and 16, he was 17th and 11th. So still relatively limited experience here, but he did make good progress.
For sure, and they're known to put up some good start times, so we'll see what this is. 5:18. And I think they had a little trouble on the track in training this week as well.
Yeah. Well, 5:18 start, but he had a great games as a result of all that extra training, so it did pay off.
It did. Anytime you're hosting an Olympic Games and get some extra runs on that track, racing in front of your home crowd is definitely an advantage.
Great livery on the Korean sled with the gold on it. In his case, should be silver. Ooh. Oh, big skid. Now, that's the same as we saw from Lochner.
Yeah. A hit isn't bad, but when you hit and skid, that's just like double trouble.
He'd gone from 14th at the start to 7th. I see him going right back to 14th by the line.
Yeah.
Let's see what he's got at the bottom. Needs one.
Yeah.
Oh, Rocky. Needs 135. Hasn't got it at the line. 13th. All right, I missed my guess by, 700ths of a second. All right.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. Well, John Morgan would have got it on the money. His uncanny ability to predict it was almost as good as a coach.
Yeah, I think bobsled runs through John Morgan's veins.
Oh, yeah. Plus, he's Rain Man when it comes to math.
Yeah.
54.86 slide for Yoon Jong-won. And again, like Lochner, good run. One tiny error, compounded by the skid and the tap into the Kreisel. Yeah. Hauls it off there.
Yeah,
wow.
That was a big hit. Couple big hits at the top definitely cost him a bit. And that one right there.
Yeah, you watch the run and see him. He hauled that off. He was not confident of where he was going. If he'd left it, he'd have been good.
Yeah. Well, the good news is he's got some stuff to improve on for the next heat.
2 to go, and another World Cup rookie last week in 2-man is a World Cup rookie in 4-man, 21-year-old Michael Vogt from Switzerland. His 4-man World Cup debut with Alan Noosa, Oliver Giga, and Sandro Michel behind him. Young Swiss bobsledding crew.
Another 5:18 on the start, matched the sled before him with the Koreans.
Total experience on this track, 1 4-man race in Europa Cup. That's your lot. So...
All right.
Yeah, so the Koreans in front have got a lot more experience than this European team.
That's interesting. Usually the Europeans like to come get experience on the track. Ooh, that skid right there is going to cost him a bit.
He's got a few trips in 2-man, but certainly you could count them all on the fingers of one hand. 31 hundredths of a second back, top 12 run though.
Yeah, and I mean, if he's new on this track, just getting this experience in the World Cup is going to be really important and really crucial. Well,
you know, that's the season, isn't it? And the same for you, you know, you just got to learn for the first 2 or 3 years, then you've got to recalibrate your sights.
Exactly.
5600s back, 14th place as they were at the start. So ahead of Roman Heinrich of France, yes.
All right.
And ahead of Brad Hall of Great Britain. So 500s ahead of Hall, 200s behind Yoon Jong-won of Korea, who went down just in front of him. Yeah, brakes. Driver knows where he's going. Everyone else has got their head buried between their knees. So the brakeman, there's not a lot of pressure here. You often get disorientated in the back seat. If you lose count, you're going, okay, we're in the last straight down to the final corner. No, brakes.
Yeah, and did you say his brakeman's a rookie?
Yeah, no. Okay, he's done a couple of races.
Because if you're new, sometimes it's tricky back there. You're still learning how to ride in a sled, and then you're expected to pull the brakes. It's easy to get disoriented, like you said.
Yeah, going through your mind is, don't crash us, make it stop. Well, got a big first pressure into the Kreisel there, and again, that has to be steered out of. So all these tiny errors with lack of track knowledge. Now, no shortage of track knowledge here from Alana Myers-Taylor, and this is her 15th 4-man race as well, including 4 World Cup starts. She's got 30-year-old Parker Tiffany at 2. This is her 5th ever ride in a bobsled, or race in a bobsled. 28-year-old Nicole Brungart at 3 from Omaha, Nebraska, her 7th race. And on the back, Jessica Davis, the 26-year-old sprinter from LA. Total number of bobsled races up until now, a big fat 0. Welcome to sliding.
And get this is also her first time ever in a 4-man sled for Jessica Davis on the brakes.
Wow.
Alana actually controlled that kink better than most of the guys. She calls this her home track as a joke. She loves this track. She has a world championship here. And I'm expecting some good, clean lines here. They're about 80 kilos underweight. So we might not see the speeds, but you're definitely going to see some ladies having a good time.
Yeah.
Yeah, already 1.28 back, probably due to that 80 kilos.
Well, it's another great way of introducing great women into the sport, though, who, you know, will hopefully end up becoming part of the US program on other women's sleds with 2 athletes in.
Exactly. The women are all super excited to be here racing, and Alana wants to show the world that women can push and drive a 4-man sled.
Yep. 56.14 slide for her. And as you say, with a sled that's running underweight, it doesn't accelerate the way the others do.
Oh!
Whoa.
Hey, it's her first time ever on 4-man brakes, so
Listen,
that's pretty good.
We've seen a Great Britain sled go right up there onto the concrete, you know, with far more experienced personnel on board, so there's definitely no dramas there. Jessica Davis on the brakes, her first ever bobsled race completed successfully. Now, will she take a second trip?
She will.
She will. No question. I'm being facetious, definitely. All right.
Yeah, Alana looked great. She loves this track, and it shows.
Yeah, nice lines. You know, she showed it in a women's race. She's got great driving lines down here. And you can see the smile in her eyes. Look, how much fun is she having?
Yeah, she's having a blast. I actually saw her at the run when they did 4-man in training. And I said, Alana, you're just like glowing with happiness. She's like, I love 4 women. She's like, when I drive 2 women, I'm too competitive.
Well, at the top of our pile is another person who's too competitive, Nico Walther of Germany. He leads by 0.02 of a second over the Olympic and World 4-man champion Francesco Friedrich, with 3rd placed Oskars Kiebermanis just 0.16 of a second behind. And maybe Johannes Lochner not out of the frame, 2400s back in 4th place. But at the moment, it is Nico Walther with the slenderest of leads. 1 heat down, 1 to go. Day 1 of 4-man. And they'll all come back and do it again tomorrow. So Nico Walther, Francesco Friedrich, Oskars Kiebermanis are the top 3. All 19 sleds completed the run successfully, and they will all get the chance to go again in our second heat. They'll go in reverse order, with the leader defending his advantage last, and the first sled will be just after we come on air at 4:30 local time, 15:30 Greenwich Mean Time. Wherever you are, join us for that. Alongside Brittany Reinbold, me, Martin Hayden, and the IBS TV crew trackside here in Winterberg in Germany. We'll see you then. Bye for now.